Do you want this helmet, or how about this brand new one-up chain guide? All three of these items are brand new. All you got to do is subscribe and you will be entered for a chance to win one of these three items. So once again, thanks for your time. This is a way for me to show appreciation, and yeah, on to the video. What is up, guys? We are talking about the upcoming World Cup downhill series. It's still a few months away, but I don't know about you. I am already getting excited, and that is because we are going to have one of the most interesting rivalries and battles for the overall, in my opinion, between the machine Loic Bruni, the most well-rounded downhill racer to ever race, and the prodigy Jackson Goldstone. And the first race of the season kicks off in Poland. It's a few months away, but we are going to be looking at a 10-race series and talk about exciting. As a fan of the sport that has seen for many years the downhill series schedule only include 5 or 6 races, to now have a legitimate 10 series title battle is so exciting. This is really the first since I have been a part of the sport. I can attest to what it was like in the sort of 80s, or I guess, yeah, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. But since I've been paying attention, this is the most consequential change to the scheduling that I have ever seen. So to see a legitimate 10-race series title fight is so exciting. But what we're talking about today is who I believe are the two title favorites going into the season. Not to say that they're necessarily going to win. Why we love downhill is how unpredictable it is, but I would be hard-pressed to not say that Jackson Goldstone and Loic Bruni are the two title favorites. And what makes it so interesting is how different they are in terms of age and ultimately kind of their approach to the sport. First up, respect given to Loic Bruni. I am going to be talking about him first. He is on his way to becoming one of the greatest of all time. I believe Aaron Gwin really elevated the sport in terms of the preparation and training side. Loic Bruni took that, implemented it, and also elevated the sport in terms of the technology and bike setup. He was one of the first riders over the past 10 plus years to be routinely spotted with what is now commonplace, the data acquisition system on a bike. I'm not saying he was the first, but him and his mechanic, Jack Rohr, were really this dynamic duo that changed the game in terms of how to approach a bike. Team Specialized, the factory racing outfit, is pretty much sort of built around Loic Bruni. The results speaks for themselves. He was one of the early dudes to truly look at the bike as a system, similar to like Nicolas Vulio's, and to really understand what potential lies in just the smallest incremental changes: spoke tension, wheel stiffness, tire pressure, frame chassis stiffness, suspension, geometry, the list goes on. And I'm not saying he was the only one doing it, and I'm not even saying that this is a new concept. What I am saying is he was really in a time where I feel like there was a little bit of a technological lull in the sport. There wasn't as much funding going into downhill. Enduro was actually sort of soaking up some of the resources. He was one of the few riders that was really showcasing what data acquisition could do. This was when he was battling Aaron Gwin, one of the best riders of all time. It was in those formative years that he not only improved as a bike technician, but also as a rider. So Loic Bruni won 4 overalls now. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I'm not a statistician. He won 2024 as well as 2023. Jackson Goldstone was not able to compete last year, but in 2023, it was an incredible example of how good Loic Bruni is at approaching the sport. A good sort of anecdotal example of this is, when is the last time you remember Loic Bruni in a race run getting a flat tire? Take some time, ponder it, because I don't even remember. Because I know this is going to be surprising. A lot of people will talk about, well, flat tires at the highest level is just a fluke anomaly. There's nothing you can do. Well, tell that to Loic Bruni. The dude never flats. And if you think that is just sheer coincidence, that is absolutely dead wrong. Everything on your bike is a potential sort of influencing factor for whether you get a flat. Obviously, the most apparent ones, the tires, the tire insert, the pressure, the wheels, the rims, the spoke tension, but also the less obvious ones, how stiff your bike is, suspension. And it is not a coincidence that in a sport where pretty much everybody else is getting a flat, especially the Santa Cruzes. I don't know what they're doing, but I've seen many flat tires from Greg Menard and Jackson Goldstone. So I think they kind of got to rethink whatever it is they're doing, because at this level, that is a strategic error. Because all you got to do is look at the machine that is Loic Bruni, and he has figured it out. They are setting their bikes up not only to be obviously as fast as it's capable of being, but to last a 3 to 5 minute downhill run. So not to harp on about flat tires, but I feel like that is a really good emblematic example of Loic Bruni's playing chess, the other teams are playing checkers. He is also just the best at managing a race. Amaury Pierron is a good example of a rider that is arguably as fast or faster than Loic Bruni, but isn't quite as good at managing those days when perhaps it's not all coming together, where maybe you're not gelling with the track. This is once again a sort of example of why Loic Bruni is so intelligent. When he is at a race, Val di Sole is kind of a good example, where it's not clicking and he knows he doesn't have that speed to contest for a win. He doesn't try to win. He knows exactly how hard he needs to go. And also an interesting anecdote is in Ludenville, I'm pretty sure he had a trackside guy shout out how much time he was up or down by. That is the race that allowed him to wrap the title up a race early. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure, once again, this is not against the rules. This is totally above board. Loic Bruni is probably the only guy that would want that information coming at him during a race run. The dude is the most complete and capable downhill racer of all time. He checks all the boxes, and that is why he is racking up all these titles. Now we're going to get to one of the most exciting riders in the sport, if not the most exciting, Jackson Goldstone. Do I believe Jackson Goldstone is as good at the X's and O's as Loic Bruni? Absolutely not. He's just less experienced. He's like not quite half his age, but Loic Bruni is like 50% older than him. So it would be kind of silly to assume that Jackson was as experienced. Do I believe Jackson is as good at Loic Bruni as bike setup? Again, probably not. I would say Jackson Goldstone's tendencies for flat tires would indicate that no. But what Jackson Goldstone does have is prodigy level speed. He is the most talented downhill racer I've ever seen to race a bike. And the fact is that when you're that talented, you can literally come into a season like 2023 coming in and out of hospitals with some, I believe it was a spleen issue, come in and win 2 races. Almost win Leogang had he not sort of had that last few turn incident. Could have potentially, not to go down the road of woulda, coulda, but could have potentially won Leogang. Snowshoe got a flat tire, could have theoretically won that. The dude is just such a freak prodigy. He is so naturally skilled on that bike that he does not need everything else in the arsenal to be quite as refined, quite as dialed as the more seasoned veteran Loic Bruni, because he simply has that speed that I'm not sure Loic Bruni is yet able to match. Loic Bruni does not win by margins like 5 seconds, like Amaury Pierron and Jackson Goldstone at Mount St. Anne, Amaury at Val di Sole and Leger. Loic Bruni does not win by these kinds of margins. When Jackson is firing on all cylinders at his best, I don't believe Loic Bruni has that speed to beat him. But what he does have is racecraft. What he does have is experience, the methodology, the arguably best bike, best team, best mechanic possibly, perhaps controversial, but Jack Rohr is one of the smartest heads in the game, and that is what is going to make this battle so interesting, because they really do have very different skill sets. Jackson is just new to this game. He's still learning. He's still figuring it out. Loic Bruni, he's been there. He's done that. He probably is more knowledgeable than any downhill racer on the circuit. And I, for one, am so excited to see how this season plays out. I don't think you can necessarily pick a big favorite between these two. And that's not to discredit the other riders that could win this championship. I'm by no means suggesting that they already have it won. There is a lot of fast dudes that are very capable of winning races and possibly winning the title, but I do believe that it is very likely going to end up being a battle between these two individuals, and I am so eager and so excited to see how it plays out. I don't know if you could necessarily pick one over the other one because they both have incredible skills in sort of traits that are unique to them in 10 races, awesome track. This season's going to be awesome. I know there is some industry struggles, and that's definitely a topic for another video. But as a mountain bike fan, I, for one, can say this is an exciting moment in the sport. Downhill racing seems to be at an all-time high. Let me know what you think. Agree, disagree. What rider do you got for wins this year? What rider do you think is going to make that kind of breakout performance? But anyways, leave a comment and hope you enjoy the video.